Welcome back to another episode of the Canicorn Podcast. The Canicorn Podcast, the only Iowa baseball podcast with Parker Hageman and Rob Allison. Rob, how are you today?
Very good. Thank you for having me.
Okay. I didn't realize I invited you to this. If that's a thing, I'll make sure to make it more formal invitation and maybe like an evite or something like that. Rob, 99% of the time we're going to talk baseball or baseball adjacent things, but you just got back from a state that I think 4 people visit in a year. I don't even know if they have roads or airports, but I'm curious. You went to Vermont. How did you get in and out, and what did you do there?
I think you have bad perspective of what Vermont actually brings to the table. Running water, internet, paved roads. Shocking, I know. No, it was awesome, to give a little insight to my life. Like, shockingly, this year is my wife and my 20th anniversary.
Oh,
Yes.
is that the
Yes.
gold one? What is the 20-year? Supposed to give.
I don't know. I'll have to Google that.
Yeah.
Maybe the 20th anniversary, like that's when you give them the chintzy like coupon book as a gift. Like the one coupon could be a free back rub.
Uh-huh.
Another coupon would be like do the dishes for a week. I don't know. Maybe that's what the 20th anniversary is. Well, for me, the 20th anniversary was making a trip to Vermont. Really nice area, beautiful foliage. Got to see all the leaves. My first time ever got to experience a maple syrup tasting. I was pretty wired up after that bad boy. Has a lot of sugar going through the system. But yeah, it was nice to get away. We've been running through brick walls and killing it since really haven't had any weekends off or any time off since June
Ever? Yeah.
It seems like. So it was nice to get away for a few days and just hang out and recharge the battery and then get back in front of the computer and get ready to rock and roll for 2025.
Would you consider the Vermont landscape to be similar to that of Eastern Iowa, Western Iowa? Like where does that fall in the?
Yeah. Like a lot of people in Iowa, they'll go up into like east, northeast, go up to Dubuque, Galena, that whole area. I would say Vermont would be that area on steroids. Yeah. So if you want the simplistic route, like I highly recommend Dubuque, Galena, that whole area. It's a really good place to go to. But we obviously jumped the shark and, hey, let's jump on a plane and go to Vermont. Boom. Crazy. Yeah.
Just loading up the suitcase with syrup bottles on your way back out, right?
My kids are going to be eating pancakes for weeks.
Well, that's good. You do look refreshed. You do look recharged. You look like a new man.
I appreciate that.
But going back to your point, yes, it had been a grind. End of summer into the fall circuit. It's always it's nonstop in the Upper Midwest, right? But the benefit of having the nonstop time is that we get to see a lot of players in action and in game. Let's talk about some that you saw here in the last month or so that stood out to you. Who do you got?
Yeah. Obviously, we say grind and oh, woe is me, and we're so busy, but I mean the best part about it is like we're doing something that we really like to do, and we're doing something that we're passionate about, and that we bring a lot of strengths to the table. We're able to provide a ton of stuff for players and families and programs and everything else. But yeah, the fall's been great. We had a great run with tournaments starting in August, ending here just this last weekend. hundreds, if not thousands, of players pouring through. Ton of baseball. Um, I can tell you, I've watched enough baseball, and I'm sure you've watched enough baseball this fall that the last thing I'm doing tonight is jumping in front of the TV to watch. Even though it is playoffs in Major League Baseball, like I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. But yeah, some players I really liked, like one guy who really stood out to me. Had never seen him before. Dylan Kelsey from North Scott High School. Um, obviously a bigger high school. There's going to be a lot of younger, talented guys that you're just kind of you got to go through the process. You got to work your way through the freshman team, the JV. You got a lot of upperclassmen in front of you. Um, he was on the varsity roster. They really only used him really for like courtesy run, maybe a couple pinch hit opportunities. Like we're not going to cross paths with that guy. Um, but just watching him play with the Wow Factor team out of Quad Cities, like just barrel after barrel, base hit after base hit. From a social media perspective, he actually made life really easy on me because every time you put the camera on him, there was some sort of fireworks going on. Like, so thank you, Dylan. Like, made it easy on me. Appreciate it. Um, but yeah, he was just really good. He's really athletic, left-handed hitter. Um, definitely is going to make a big jump up in the rankings and become a pretty solidified guy in that grad class.
I want to stop you before we go on to the next guy to talk a little bit about your ranking insight, I guess, and between the fact that we have showcases, right? We have the showcase circuit throughout the summer, again here at the end of the fall, but the benefit of seeing them in game, up close, multiple at bats, does that enhance what you can do for that player on the ranking side?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I'm looking at, and probably kicking a dead horse because when it comes to rankings, like we're looking at anything and everything available and possible, every tidbit of 411 to try to piece everything together and try to get the clearest picture or educated, I guess, decision on kind of where a player stands in the scheme of things. And yeah, so to see them in games, and I think that's the biggest differentiator with us is, you know, we are at tournaments, at games, we are providing some social media content, some highlights, those things. But that's not ultimately the priority. That's not why we're there. Like we are actually there watching the players, evaluating players, scouting players. And then if we're able to enhance the weekend, enhance the experience, be able to put out some player promotion, everything else, social media wise, that's like icing on the cake. Um, but yeah, to see them in a showcase aspect, accrue all that data, see where they're at from a tools perspective, and then see how those tools then translate into games. Because really, it does boil down to like it is the game of baseball. You're looking for guys that can play at a high level, and so guys can really get the opportunity to show that. So it's kind of all encompassing, I guess.
I think that makes an incredible amount of sense.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, would it be concise about it? Uh,
Yeah, the wild meanderings of my mind.
well, yeah, I mean, again, it's kind of a tip of the iceberg thing that I think the people that follow us or are part of the event, they'll see things that we put out onto Prep Baseball Iowa's Twitter account. They might not necessarily know what's happening behind it, what you're watching, and what you're looking at during that game process.
Yeah, and obviously we're looking for guys that stand out. We look at guys that are above and beyond the average or the norm. We could staff tournaments and we could turn social media into participation medals, but ultimately, like we're looking for interesting guys, we're looking for impactful guys, and we're trying to make it as concise but legitimate as possible because ultimately, if we're just pouring out tweet after tweet, like it starts to lose its validity, and a lot of it just becomes white noise. And when we post something up, like we want people to take notice and be like, "Hey, like here's this kid's name. This is where he's from, or this is who he plays for. This is what he brings to the table," and entice college coaches and whoever it may be to want to dig deeper into that player and see ultimately down the road if they could be a good fit for them or not.
Okay, so what other players did have some of that little enticement that you saw this fall?
Yeah. Obviously, I think some of one of the bigger fireworks of the fall, the Minnesota kid, Will Haas. Like, obviously, know a ton about him. Have been around him a lot. He's been to events. He's been to some of our national stuff, future games. Tennessee commit. But just to be able to see him get on the mound and left-handed and run it up to what 94,
95.
95. How dare I shortchange Will 1 mile per hour?
Written apology will be coming here, Will.
But it's not. There's not a ton of effort. It's not like he's grunting and farting the baseball up there. Um, he's really talented and it's really impressive. And in the baseball world, to get a chance to watch a kid left-handed unleashing the fury, running it up to 95, good feel for the zone and ability to pitch, like that checks a lot of boxes that you don't typically get to see.
Yeah, I think too, from having seen him in the Minnesota side of things and again this fall, like his secondary stuff is almost as impressive as that fastball too. Landing a slider and a basically a screwball changeup that runs away from righties. It's a very interesting combination that he has.
Well, and how he's progressed. I mean, even back in eighth grade, he was like low to mid 70s. It wasn't eye popping or what we typically get from a when you're talking about that last 1% of eighth graders. But he learned how to pitch first, and facing him legitimately was like he's out there. It's like a wiffle ball game to him. Like he's going to change arm slots, he's going to change speeds, he's going to try to make everything as wicked as possible. He wants to try to make you swing and miss and look foolish, and like it's just a big game to him. But he learned how to pitch first, and then as the years have progressed, he's continued to get bigger, stronger. The arm really works. The velocity is just continued to make jumps. And so I think process wise, he kind of had everything in the right order and prioritized the way it should be, versus a lot of guys who they just really want to try to build arm strength. They want to throw hard and they try to figure out everything else after the fact. And that's when guys start getting themselves into a lot of trouble.
So he's got that dog in him. Is kind of what you're saying. I think is what I read in that whole.
Uh, I have a general idea of what that means, but sometimes you press me at 49 years old. But sure, yeah, he's got that dog. Definitely has that dog in
Got to stay up with what the kids are saying, cap or no cap.
him. Thank God I have an 18-year-old and a 14-year-old son that when some of this stuff crosses my waiver wire, I can just bounce it off them to get the full context of what the hell it actually means.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to Google a lot of that stuff. You're not going to be happy about what comes back. I don't think sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, I think at 18 and 14, like they have a better grasp and concept and able to explain it to me. There's probably some stuff that I wouldn't be bouncing off my 12-year-old right now. Like even though like I would probably be terrified in the fact that he knows what a majority of it means. Like probably don't want to be having those types of discussions with him at this point. Um, but yeah, yeah.
We probably should mention that Haas is coming to the University of Tennessee. So any coaches out there interested in some arms like that, probably gonna have to wait their turn for a little bit, anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, they got their dirty little hooks into him.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a volunteer. Um, I thought a really cool moment at the fall was Tatum Gray.
Oh yeah.
Um, just being able to watch him hit, like he's really advanced and he's really mature for his age. And it wasn't like a Rocky movie. Like it really wasn't like again. It wasn't Cole Moore versus Tatum Gray, like a battle between those two. But it was a battle in regards to a really high end arm on the mound, a really high end hitter, and just really impressed. Like, of course, Cole Moore, super competitive, super talented. He's going to announce his presence with authority. Low 90s fastball. Here you go. Dare you to hit it. And Tatum Gray took the dare.
Oh,
You know,
did he hit it?
he knows that guy's going to come at him with everything he's got. There's going to be higher end velo, and he makes the simple adjustment. Like, all right, I'm going to get my foot down a little earlier. I'm going to get loaded, split second sooner, and I'm going to put my best swing that I possibly can on this ball. And he ran into it, and I'm not sure if that thing has even landed yet.
It was, if I recall right, it was a 3-0 fastball, and the dugout's yelling to Cole, challenge him, and he did. It was 91 mile per hour in the zone, and boy, yeah, it was. Tate Gray's swings have that different sound, right? The ball leaves it differently than you listen to some other guys bat. Like he's got that grown man impacting the baseball sort of thing, and large
Right.
human. Um, and also very athletic too. So just to be able to see him, what we got him maybe 3 tournaments, like that was very enjoyable.
He's going to hit a lot more home runs and a lot more loud, have a lot more loud at bats against a lot more guys. And Cole Moore is really talented, and he is going to be playing baseball for a pretty long duration of time. And he's probably going to give up a few more bombs in his career. He'll probably hit a few more on the offensive side. But that was just really as kind of, I wouldn't say surreal, but I mean it's one of those matchups that you really like to see and can make games super interesting.
Yeah, you can't. Like I had to have the camera up, but I wanted to be behind home plate to watch that from behind to see everything. But that was terrific. Yeah.
Some other guys I liked. There's a younger guy, and I'm gonna probably mispronounce the high school. South Winneshek, Carson Streeter. I thought he was super interesting. Big physical kid, arm works well. Probably low 80s, um, up to 83, 84, maybe a couple times. But like just I've been writing some reports today, and it kind of revolves around like all the stuff we've done junior college wise this fall. And I think what we do have our thumb on, what I think I have a good grasp on, is it's really interesting to see these high school athletes, these multi sport guys. They maybe haven't put a ton of time into baseball specifically, but you just see how their body moves and the things that they can do right now with minimal effort on the baseball field and minimal training for the most part. And they're just so I think I started out a line on one of my reports was this player is following the typical trend of a lot of multi-sport guys, multi-sport athletes in the upper Midwest, which there's some red flags. They need some development. There's some rawness, some crudeness, but then all of a sudden you see them a year or two later in junior college and you're like, oh my God, like where did this kid come from? And I think he's that typical guy as well. Like just down the road, if you saw him right now and you had to make a decision now, like you'd be like, I mean, I don't think there'd be enough there, but down the road, like I think it's pretty evident, like he could be a legitimate guy. He just needs that time.
If I recall right, we saw him this past weekend in Gale Force Winds, and yeah, again, real good body, projectable body, and like he had a breaking ball that he was landing pretty good, a little sharp tilt to it, and like yeah, that's a great name. I real quick, I'm going to take a sip of this. It's a Java Brain coffee here, a little energy drink. I just need a little pick me up here in the middle of the show. That's good stuff.
Whoa, wow, wow, little product drop. I like
Little
that.
product drop. Yeah. 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 Okay. So that's
Yeah,
Carson
I'm gonna
Streeter.
take a sip of my water. I'm gonna take a sip of my water from this. Uh, I guess bootleg Yeti cup that my wife made years ago. That looks like it's had a 12-round heavyweight fight with a badger at some point.
You're not supposed to put those in the dishwasher. That's what I've learned over the years. Is that Wilton well water, or how does that end up getting? You have to go to the river, to the creek. I don't know how small towns work.
Not only do you get hydrated, but you get your full allotment of vitamins and minerals in every sip.
Mm, very good. Very good.
But yes, it is tap water.
I,
Dipstick.
I'm learning new things every day. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
so all right, we got Streeter. Got any more that stood out? Obviously, a lot of standouts, but who are Rob's special
Well, you
standouts?
were there. You were there for the duration. Is there anyone that kind of jumps off the page for you?
Um, I was just thinking about this when you asked me earlier. And I'm going to butcher the name. He was an ITB kid by the name of Tavon Soppy. Is that at all correct? Do you know who I'm referring to?
Tavian Soppy, yeah,
Tavian
SOPP.
Soppy. Um, again, he kind of falls in the category of rawness, but the size and he showed some power to the alleys and got on the mound and was low eights. And at his size, you're like, wow, if and I have no idea on his background or other sports or anything like that, but seems like a guy that you could do things with if you're working in the program.
Yeah, yeah, and it's everything's kind of spread out and few and far between. Like, I think that's the one struggle in Iowa, at least from border to border, is there's a lot of really good guys that I don't think necessarily always get the instruction and training that they need and deserve. I think there's still, and I get the whole multi sport participation, all that, but I think there's just a high volume of guys in Iowa that just honestly don't even realize how good they could actually be. Like they know they're a good baseball player. But I think a lot of them are just 3 month participators. Like, all right, they're going to get their glove out, their bat out, they're going to go play for 3 months. It was real, it was fun, and then they end up putting it back in the closet because they're right on to their next sport and so on and so forth. But yeah, guys like Carson, guys like Tavian, like they're super interesting guys, and they're going to develop at a later rate, and but then down the road, you're like, man, this guy's really turned himself into something. So I
I
think
guess
that is one of the unique, cool aspects of kids in the upper Midwest and specifically in Iowa.
I'm going to throw out one more name since we're on ITB, and I think this has kind of been when your boy. I'm going to just give you the air quotes of that, but because you had highlighted him a couple times. Kaden Harris was another player out of the ITB team who undersized, and he ended up committing to, is it Blackhawk Community College? Is that where he ended up going? But
Yep.
athletically, smaller frame, but he juiced a few baseballs, lost a few, and like played some solid defense. Just looked like that undersized thing. And I guess you were just kind of referring to this with Iowa kids as like, hey, some players just kind of play for being athletes and then end up at JUCO, but that might be the best thing for a lot of those same players is you end up at JUCOs, right? And you have 2 years develop and then find out who or what you are.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you see it all across the ICAC Junior College Conference in Iowa. And I may have referenced this like in an earlier podcast. Like it just it was just always funny. We'd have a lot of schools, 4 year schools, come in want to recruit guys at Iowa Western, and they thought now that he's a sophomore, now that he's 6'5", 225, throwing low 90s, have check all these boxes. They're like, oh my god, how did you get this guy? And you would always chuckle because that's not the guy that we got. Like He was maybe 6'3", 6'4". He was maybe 175 pounds. We maybe got him when he was like 85, 87. Um, and I don't think people south of Iowa or below the Mendoza line, they just don't have a great grasp on how kids develop and how they mature and just kind of the processes that happen here in the upper Midwest. Like Kaden's a really good player. He can really defend. I think what I was happy to see, he is pretty wiry. He's pretty skinny. But I thought he handled the bat really well. And I think the bat continued to progress through the fall. Like, I always knew he was a good athlete. I always knew he could really defend at a high level. You just didn't know if he was going to handle the bat and all that stuff. And so I think he answered some of those questions with just the level that he played at. Known the family for quite a while. His older brother Asher came to events when he was in high school. Little brother Kaden followed up behind him. So I'm really happy for him. He's doing well. Blackhawk now has a new head coach with Drake Robeson, who I have a connection with. I recruited him. He played for us at Iowa Western, and then moved on to Ole Miss and finished his last year at the University of Iowa. So Drake has some good Midwest connections. He's young, he's motivated, and I know he's really getting after it over at Blackhawk and trying to continue because Blackhawk has had a pretty good level of success, and he's trying to maintain that along with trying to expand upon that. And so I'm happy for all of them. It's a good deal.
If I was better at preparing for these podcasts, I would have gone through the text messages that throughout the fall that I sent you, like, you got to get this guy to an event, and you'd say something like, don't tell me what to do. But those are some of the names I need to dig back out and say, hey, that was an interesting individual and things like that. But I think it goes to a lot of these guys that were at any of these games, and if you stood out a little bit or you did well, like, you probably should go to an event too. Like, go see what your old tools are and help yourself out on the recruiting. Get yourself the profile to send to the coaches and get moving.
Yeah, and I mean, it kind of goes around our rankings, and I don't mean this as a sales pitch. Like, everything is a tool. I think attending a showcase and accruing those numbers and getting everything verified in video, like, that's a tool. Performing in games is a tool. What you're doing from a training perspective is a tool. Like, the cliche phrase is like, a hammer is a great tool, but good luck building a house with just a hammer. And so I do think players need to diversify themselves a little bit. They do need to take advantage of various different opportunities and figuring out ways to piece all those things together to be able to perform and put out the best product of themselves and make them as attractive as possible to as many college coaches as they can. So,
there's the joke online about how middle-aged guys could just sit around and name baseball players for the rest of their lives and have fun with that. Remember the guy, remember Gary Gaetti, things like that. We could do that with your tournament guys for the next 2.5, 3 hours. But let's just move real quick on to a couple of the commitment things here, right? So Bryce Pauly, a future game member from Team Midwest, announced his commitment to Indiana. That's a pretty good one, right?
He did. He's going to stay in the Big Ten, getting a good opportunity outstate. I know he had a lot of interest coming out of the future games. Well over a dozen Division Ones. We're talking to him at various points. He kind of whittled that list down. And I think he's really excited about his decision. I think he really felt like that could be a great landing spot for him. And so I'm really pumped up for him and his family. They put in a ton of time and effort, and to kind of bring that all to fruition, and for him to know now where he's going to be landing college-wise here in a year and a half, 2 years, I think that's a big thing for him. So, but and obviously the 25 commitments, it's kind of been a little bit of a slow burn through the fall, but I do think, We still continue to have more and more commitments come in on a daily basis. Obviously, coaches and colleges are doing their window shopping, recruits, prospects, they're doing their window shopping. So we're kind of at that point now, mid October. Fall is starting to wind down. A lot more guys are making decisions. Obviously, players, when you do make a decision, tag at Prep Baseball Iowa, keep us in the loop, gives us the opportunity to celebrate and promote your commitment, along with updating your profile and keep everything moving forward. But yeah, it's an exciting time. A lot of guys making good decisions for themselves.
It's also now a quiet period in the D1 recruiting calendar cycle, right? Which essentially means what?
Going into this cycle now, colleges, they can't go off campus, they can't go to games, they can't go to showcases, tournaments. And this is all specific to Division Ones. Junior colleges, D3s, NAIAs, whatever it may be, still have the latitude to kind of move and go in whatever direction they want. But Division Ones now are just limited to being on campus. But there's still opportunities for players. A lot of those Division Ones, they're going to be hosting camps through the fall. Because once a player is on campus, they pretty much have full latitude to have conversations, recruit, do all the various things that they need to do. So there'll still be players going to camps. There'll still be players going to campuses on visits. So I'd expect, here over the next 2-3 weeks, like it's probably going to ratchet up with some pretty good players making commitments to some pretty well-known names and upper level schools across the country.
And it's nice that Bryce Pauly became the first Iowan off the board from the future game team, correct? If I'm not mistaken. Right. Fact check that later.
Boom.
Fact check that later.
Colton. Yeah.
Oh, Remich.
Colton Remich committed to Nebraska. Way to go, Boner.
Oh.
Figure it out.
Second Iowan off the board from the future game team. Edit that, please. All right, so we're gonna do our ticket to the house segment here, and we're obviously in the Halloween season, the spooky season, and that's Rob's second favorite season besides baseball. I don't know if that's true or not, but I'm gonna give you 5 movies.
My second favorite season is now at the end of the fall. We're entering into soup season.
Soup season is terrific.
Big fan of soup.
But
carry on, Halloween.
I had to do this with holiday movies last year. Now we're going to do the top 5. These are 5 Halloween movies, and you're going to blindly rank them based on the names 1 through 5. Okay, you won't know what's coming after it, so lock in. Right, number 1. Well, the first one.
I really hate when you do this to me, but proceed.
Nightmare Before Christmas.
I don't get to hear. So you want me to rank as we go?
Yeah,
I don't get to
blindly ranking them. You don't know what's coming next. You just gotta decide where that lands on your spectrum.
That's 5.
Okay. Well, this one's gonna hurt. That Hocus Pocus.
I'm actually going to give that a 2 because shockingly, I got done in the office yesterday. I walked upstairs, spent some time with the fam, and we watched Hocus Pocus last night.
That's some recency bias is what we got going on here, I think.
Yeah, it's fresh in my mind.
All right. You know what? I'll be honest. I've never watched that all the way through, so I can't comment.
Well, I don't know if it's a good thing or not, but I have.
Okay.
Less than 24 hours ago. So,
all right. Next one is Scream, the original Scream.
I'm gonna give that a 3. Yep.
All right.
Yep, so that's kind of a classic.
You have You have a 4 and a 1 left with 2 more. Okay.
Someone's going to get shined up the steel, but all right.
Halloween.
Michael Myers.
Yeah. The original.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Jamie Lee Curtis. I was going to say Jodie Foster. That was wrong. But yeah. Jamie Lee Curtis.
No, Jodie Foster was in Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah.
Fava beans.
Yeah. She was very good in that as well.
Halloween. I'm actually not a big fan of those, so I'm just going to have to punch it in the gut and put it at 4.
Okay. So the last one, and I've never actually heard of this. Trick or Treat. I guess it came out in the 2000s. It's gonna be your number 1 because this is what we have left. Trick or Treat. And I'm guessing you haven't seen it by the reaction on your face here.
No, I haven't seen it, so I'm a little jaded to this whole process right now. I really don't feel like it's, I don't know. I'm going to say it's not deserving of a number 1, even though it has to fall into number 1 in the processes that you've set up. But I guess I will partake in trying to watch it at some point, so I at least have a educated opinion on what level all these other movies are getting screwed right now in your rankings system.
You know what? I can't. You ranked them. I can't take credit for it. This is your. I just name things. You put it all together. But hey, I encourage you to try this next time too, and just find 5 that you wanna shoehorn me into some bad movie takes. But last one before we go, best Halloween candy.
Oh, that's Twix.
All right, I wrote down 3, and you did list one of them, so you actually get a point for that. Okay, you got one Rob Buck for that.
Oh, sorry, the little miniature Snickers.
That's not one of the 3. Sorry, that's -1 Rob Buck. So you're at 0 again, right at the baseline.
Reese's peanut butter cups.
No. You're colder. The Twix was number 1 with the bullet. That was good. That's good. I've got Kit Kat and 100 Grand bars. Those were the correct answers.
Mm-hmm. A Kit Kat and 100. How are you raised? That is the question of this entire podcast. If you're going with 3 top Halloween candies and you're including Kit Kat and 100 Grand in there,
I defy you.
Your thought processes are questionable at best.
I think we need to take a listener survey, because I think I'm in the right here with the Kit Kat, at least the Kit Kat. 100 Grand, I'll give you that. That's not a popular one, but I think the more you have, the better you're going to feel about it. So at the end of this, I want you to go to your local Benjamin Franklin or wherever they sell candy in your area and get a big bag of 100 Grand and try it out.
I do think here in about another week, when we get a little closer to Halloween, we are going to take this to Twitter.
Absolutely. I will for sure let the masses talk.
Twitter, because I'm boggled right now. Just
you went with small Snickers for some reason, the fun size, and then what was the other one? Reese's. Okay, Reese's are that's fine. Peanut butter cup. Yeah. Okay.
There's an Adam Sandler movie. Hello, Mr. Peanut Butter Cup. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, as much as I've been around you and as much as we talk about all the rando variety of things across the world, when you say certain things like this, sometimes I just don't even know you.
We never really got into the candy bar argument at all. That really hadn't been no. We're stuck on gas station pizza.
I wouldn't say this is at the level of straining our relationship, but it's questionable.
You might not consider coming back on the show, is what you're saying? That's
woo. 100 grand. Woo. All right.
Well, I think we've covered just about everything and more than we want to do today. So thank for everybody for listening. Be sure to follow us at Prep Baseball IA on Twitter and Instagram. I'm Parker Hageman. That's Rob Allison.